Welcome. Hi, it's Sue with part 6 of Saving Words. Thursday, March 24th, 2011, 9:10 p.m., in my bed at home in Park Ridge. The surgery went very well, but they still need to go in through the back, the posterior, next Thursday, if all goes well. The second surgery would be 500% less risky than the one today. The spine doc removed the bone and 98% of the tumor and inserted a metal cage and plate in the open area. He said there was no signal in the spine below T9 and said Dad would have been paralyzed by Saturday. The doc is concerned about Dad's weight loss as well. He made a loop with his fingers and said Dad's thighs were this big, which wasn't very big. Mom went to see Pop in recovery, followed by Kath. He was able to speak and converse a little. Totally amazing. We have questions for Pop's primary doc, such as, where is the prostate cancer exactly? And how much of it is there? Is it in his back only or in his internal organs, his brain? It's clear this cancer will be a continual problem for Dad and probably will do him in. The spine doc said he'll have chronic pain in his side. They did break a couple of ribs going in. I'm so thrilled Pop made it through. More time together. What a blessing. Friday, March 25th, 2011, 11:55 p.m. I fell asleep downstairs watching a movie with Mike. Today's work? Well, I compiled a list of questions for Dad's primary care doc. I also got a 2-mile run in, which I desperately needed. The theme of the run? Letting go. Good night. Good night, Pop. I love you. I hope you're healing. I hope you notice that the pressure is off your spinal cord. I hope you're aware that the signal has been restored. Can you move your legs? Good night. Saturday, March 26th, 2011, 5:15 p.m., on my bed in Park Ridge. The slant of the late afternoon sun peeks into the bedroom. I love this day of simply being. I just came in from 2 hours of March gardening. I cleared last season's dried up remains. First, I removed the tomato cages around what was left of the peonies. Then I chopped the spent plants. I raked out the hostas and freed the Miss Kim lilac bush from various intruders. I pulled weeds from the base of our new star magnolia tree and yanked the decaying, sprawling white lace clematis and the phlox. I cut back the liatris and coneflowers. Next, I decided to clean out the north side garden. I moved into the shade and hacked away at the long grass-like foliage of the pretty Siberian iris. Then I snapped the dried stalks of the sedum and said goodbye to the remains of the lilies. I raked up our marigolds and dianthus. I stood quietly and gave thanks as I paused before the new growth of our beloved bleeding heart. It was such a pleasure out there, but I know it's about time to pick up Michael from the community center. Oh, I just phoned him and he has a ride home, and then he'll be off to the Wolves hockey game tonight. Earlier today, I sat beside him as his passenger during a 90-minute driving practice. I had him drive to the Grove, a nearby nature center. Then we stopped at Sports Authority so he could buy a new pair of sweatpants since he's outgrown several since Christmas. And good news on the dad front. He was able to move his toes the night of the surgery. Mom and Kath saw him yesterday in the ICU. Steve visited him today and emailed the relatives a progress report. Kath, Steve, Mom, and I will meet with the primary care doc tomorrow at the hospital to get a big picture of Dad's condition. I am so relaxed for the first time since Ash Wednesday. Sunday, March 27th, 2011, 6:30 p.m. Driving to Christ Hospital with Mike. Pop is still in ICU, which I'm thankful for because I believe he is getting good care. Kath drove Mom to see him earlier today around noon. They met with Dad's primary care doc, and she talked with them for about a half hour. She has been unable to reach the spine surgeon and found out that the urologist is on vacation. And Mom said the primary doc didn't even know a second surgery had been scheduled for this Thursday. Primary doc is still working to paint the big picture for us. Mom said Pop was asking to go home today. This is really heart-wrenching. And just about an hour ago, I opened an email from my son's volleyball coach telling of the tragic death of one of the players on the other 16-year-old team. He died in a car accident. Another teen had been driving. I have no more details, and perhaps I don't want any more, but I checked on the link and came eye to eye with the deceased boy's smiling face. I could sense his spirit in his bright eyes. I viewed the gallery of photos and cried for the loss of this young teenager. I hope Pop is feeling okay. Mom said he didn't sleep well last night, so he'll either be exhausted or refreshed as a result of having taken a nap. I've lost my nerve since I haven't visited Pop since Thursday. I am anxious. Time to focus on what's happened since I've last seen him. The bone has been removed from the spinal cord, and 98% of the tumor has been cleared. And Pop can wiggle his toes. Okay, we're almost there. God bless us. 10:30 p.m. Pop was sitting in ICU when Mike and I arrived earlier tonight. He was in a hospital bed that turns itself into a chair, so he looked like a king on a throne. He also appeared tired since he hadn't slept. But he was cordial and kind. So all in all, he seemed pretty good, although his voice wasn't very strong. The chest tube had come out today, and he was very happy to start physical therapy tomorrow so he can return to who he was. Well, I wonder what's ahead for Pop. It's a long way to Thursday. Will he be able to recover more and get stronger for surgery part 2? I can only hope so. Monday, March 28th, 2011, 10:40 p.m. Today was an almost normal day. I started writing the centering prayer essay, which is due Friday. Talked to Steve in the morning and to Kath and Mom later in the day. Mom said Dad was moved from ICU to a regular room tonight. Tomorrow he hopes to begin some physical therapy. That'd be nice. Mom said he may come home for a few days after the surgery Thursday. That is hard to believe, but it would be wonderful. Hard to imagine. Tuesday, March 29th, 2011. 10:30 p.m. You can tell it's spring break. Michael is still up. Michael, and I met our friends, Helena and Keith, and their son Lucas, at the Holocaust Museum in Skokie this morning. We saw and learned how 4 or 5 families were regularly crammed into one apartment throughout the Warsaw Ghetto. I stood before a model of Auschwitz and read that 2,100 human beings could be gassed at once. More than 750 people were incinerated each day, inch by inch. We walked through the building, sat down at each station, and listened to 5-minute videos about Nazi deception and Jews stripped of everything. We also learned about a few random acts of kindness. 4 hours had flown by, and we would have stayed longer, except all of us were hungry. We talked afterward at a restaurant, and our moods weren't as dark as they might have been. Mostly we appreciated the tour. My son said he got a real sense of the horror of what it would have been like to be packed into a boxcar and blindly transported. Helena, who was born in Poland, commented that her 71-year-old mother, who has lived in the United States for decades, remembers hearing shots targeting Jews outside her home when she was a very young girl. And Helena told us that her mother's parents had opened their home and hid Jews at the risk of losing their own lives. Once I was home and the huge meal and chocolate dessert settled into my body, I ran a couple of miles. On the run, I thought about Dad. I also thought about President Obama's speech last night. He was talking about Libya. Wouldn't it be a miracle if nations could come together and help keep one another in check? We'll have to wait and see what becomes of Libya and Gaddafi. Kath called tonight and reported that Dad was weaker than yesterday. Our hope was that he could sit in the wheelchair for 2 hours, but Dad was too tired for that length of time. Then it took about 40 minutes to get the help needed to move Dad back into bed. And the spine surgeon had told Kath and Dad that the incision for the next surgery would be about 1 foot long, and it would take some time to recover. Kath said Dad's color was not right today. This doesn't sound good to me at all. And Kath said Mom asked her to stop by on her way home from the hospital. One of the things Mom spoke to Kath about was how the club she and her friends from high school had formed after they graduated from Visitation High School in Chicago was shrinking. Yeah, the club was shrinking. 2 members, 2 close friends, had died last year. It seems like Mom is spending some time reflecting and now openly expressing how serious Dad's condition is. We have begun the grieving process. Wednesday, March 30th, 2011. Steve called earlier this morning to ask when I last spoke to Mom. He said she wasn't doing well. I called Kath to let her know. She'll call Mom and offer to go with her to the hospital this morning. I'm taking Michael to an eye appointment soon. Then I may have Mike drop me off at Mom's for a day or 2. This is very distressing. Dad's enema didn't work. Not good. Nightmare. 9:17 p.m. at Mom's on the couch in Hickory Hills. Mom's doing her crossword puzzle. She asked me, who sings the song Pretty Woman? Well, I knew that one. Roy Orbison, I shouted. And I knew only because my brother had taught me that when we were growing up. Mom and I drove to see Pop several hours ago. Kath was still there and waiting out in the lobby since Dad needed some privacy at that moment. We ate and Kath left. Dad was holding the newspaper when we walked in, then dropped it and greeted us. Steve arrived shortly after that. Dad had asked for morphine. He seemed uncomfortable and weak and tired. Before Kath left, she said a physical therapist had Pop bend his legs and do some other leg movements earlier today. Apparently, Pop wasn't sure if he was moving his legs or if it was the therapist moving his legs. He's on an IV and has a Foley catheter. It's hard to see him so diminished. He seems to have given in regarding visitors, though. He's not as resistant to us visiting him and no longer pushes us away. I think it is an act of charity on his part. He's allowing us to come and stay. Some people want visitors no matter what their condition is, but this has not been the case for our private but loving Pop. Kath said she thinks Pop likes it when she's there. Thinking back, I remember that Saturday night at Payless Hospital when I was ready to leave, but Pop seemed to like having me there as we watched the Bulls game. That night I learned some of the players. Pop said tonight that he feels better than he looks. I can't imagine him going into surgery tomorrow as he is, but what's the alternative? What does all this mean? What am I supposed to do? Thanks for joining me. See you next time.